the Membership Vice President Emeritus. I think that is the right term. I am the outgoing Membership Vice President for the National Organization for Women. So I was asked up here to do what I call Tales from the Trails. That was initially the title of this, and then we changed it. So I have worked on essentially 3 campaigns since I graduated from law school. If you haven't noticed, there's a bit of an age gap between me and the people up here. So I haven't had as much time to work on as many campaigns. That's really how we're going to go with this. I was a poll campaigner for Karen Pope Onwunkwe for the Maryland House of Delegates in 2007. I was a poll watcher for Obama in 2012. And then between those two, I ran for office myself to be the Membership Vice President for the National Organization for Women in 2009. So just two little tales from the trails. So in 2012, when we were the Obama poll watchers, it was myself, my mother, who is also a lawyer. They needed lawyers to do poll watching, and a good friend of ours, actually Karen Pope Onwunkwe. And we were supposed to leave at noon. We were supposed to leave from our neighborhood in Maryland at noon. So promptly at the crack of 7:30, we left Maryland. It was a 3-hour drive from our house to where our location was, where we had to be. We had to be in Chesapeake Beach, Virginia. So then we arrived, thank you. We arrived in a dingy motel at 11 o'clock. How we made a 3-hour drive take 3.5 hours, we'll really never know, but that was how long it took. We then turned right back around the next day, and we started setting up our locations at 5 a.m. So in the dark and in the cold, we drove out into a location we had never been before ever in our lives. A few things I've learned. I have a look that I call the pregnant Icelander. It comes from when we were going to Iceland. My sister and I went to Iceland one time just as a vacation. And the multi-layered look that we needed for Iceland has become the look that I wear when I do poll watching. It is a undershirt, a t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt, a sweatshirt, and a windbreaker on top of it. It makes you look very round, but it will keep you warm. I should have, though, one of the things I have learned how to do, and this is a trick that I really encourage you all to try, put on your campaign shirt over your coat. Because once you put on all of those layers, you can't see the shirt of the candidate you're supposed to be endorsing. So just work on that one. Another thing, of course, when you're campaigning in the winter, especially in Virginia, especially in Chesapeake Beach, hand warmers and toe warmers. And you have to replace them because they do wear out after a while. As we drove to our locations, again in the dead of night, one of the things, we tried to pay attention to 3 different things. Where the Wendy's were, where the 7-Elevens were, and where the Starbucks were. Because you always need to know where your bathrooms, your food, and your coffee is. Another thing that we, of course, learned, which we always knew, but that's the way it was nothing will go as planned. The lunch didn't arrive. It was supposed to arrive. The check-in phone calls didn't happen. They were supposed to happen. We had an easel that we were supposed to have set up to say, come here if you have a problem. And it was the windiest day in Chesapeake Beach ever, and the easel kept blowing out into the street. We could not get it to stay up for the life of us. I don't know if every one of you can see, but my mom is over here and she's in a scooter. What we ended up doing is we set the board next to my mom in the scooter. So it looked like a rolling sandwich board. And we didn't close on time because of the problems in Virginia. Our poll stayed open way longer than it was supposed to. So, of course, what we learned from all that is you have to be flexible, you have to be adaptive, and you have to just roll with the punches. The other thing that I learned when we were down in Virginia was you have to be nice. And I know we sometimes get a little bit of flack for women being nice, but here's what happened. Because I was nice and I was not a pain in the butt, the actual people in the polls liked me. And they would let me come in and help and do things. All the while I was watching to make sure that everyone was voting, but I might have had on some campaigning material that I might not have really should have been able to do. But I was able to do it because I was trustworthy. I had established a relationship with the poll workers, and they knew they could trust me to run back and forth and get people who needed car votes, because Virginia was allowing you to vote by car. And I had established a rapport. I did not go to them and start badgering them. And so the phrase that I would always love you to remember is, manners will take you where money can't. So that's just a little bit of my story of being a poll watcher. And then, of course, my favorite part of that is at the end of the day, I found out that the best food ever after poll watching is, and no endorsement, but yes, Wendy's chili with a baked potato. Okay, that will get you, oh my gosh, okay. And then the only other one I would like to share is how I ran for membership VP, because a lot of times it's not just working on a campaign, but being a part of a campaign. The history, as I remember it, and no one can tell me different, was that I was working at Americans United for Separation of Church and State as a field organizer, and I got an IM. Anyone remember AOL IM? I got an IM from my good friend, my longtime friend, Erin Maxon, and she said, "Do you have time to talk?" And I go, "Sure." And so the phone call went like this. "Hi, are you going to the conference?" "I don't know." "You know it's an election year, right?" "Yeah, I know, I still don't know if I want to go." "You want to run together?" Sometimes it's that simple. And after a lot of what's and are you kiddings, I embarked on one of the, let's just call it most momentous moments of my life. But during the campaign, some of the feelings I felt overwhelmed. I felt unknown. I was scared. I was nauseous. I was convinced that Janet Canterbury hated me. But mostly I felt alone. And I was running on a slate. I wasn't even running by myself, but I still felt alone. What I, of course, now know was that I actually did have a lot of support, and every candidate really does have a lot of support. So if you're thinking about running for office, just remember, of course, it's a marathon, not a race. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to say something wrong, but that's okay. You just have to learn, correct, but most importantly, keep going. Thank you.